Welcome to the Habits and Hustle podcast, a podcast that uncovers the rituals, unspoken habits, and mindsets of extraordinary people. A podcast powered by Habit Nest. Now here's your host, Jennifer Cohen.
You are a rapper, co-founded Marquis Jet. You're a founder. You're one of the owners of Atlanta Hawks. There was a company that you introduced me to called Know It Foods, like back when, years ago, at the party. Are you still involved with them?
Yeah,
because you were pushing it hard.
Yeah. It didn't work out great, but I'm a fan of the product.
Oh, okay. Because you got me hooked on it, by the way. And you're obviously an endurance athlete. There's so many things about you. I don't even know where to begin. But what I love about you is that you are so tenacious. You have such chutzpah. And where does it come from? Was it something happen while you were growing up? Were you always like this? Was it an innate thing? Are your parents like that? Like, what's your thing?
That's a really good question. I don't know what that dates back to. It's definitely in my DNA. When I first started out, I grew up in New York, and in the 80s, like when breakdancing and hip hop was just evolving and really coming on the scene, and I got into breakdancing, and I went down. I was like 15 years old. I convinced my sister to take myself and my breakdance partner, Myron, to she just got a driver's license. And I'm like, let's go to DC. Because I was like, there's no way the kids in DC are as good as the kids in New York. Like we invented this.
Right.
I'm like, we'll go down to DC and we'll try to make some money. So we drove down to DC. And I remember like the whole time going down, I'm like 14 years old, thinking to myself, like, what if the kids are better than us? What if no one shows up? Like, what if we get booed? And I was like, almost like, well, let's just turn down. I had all this like fear and feelings that I think every entrepreneur has. Like, I'm not good enough. What if someone's better? I don't have what it takes, all that stuff. Anyway, we go out there and we set up our boombox in this little parking lot in Georgetown. And Myron goes like, puts the music on. He starts spinning on his head and he passes it to me and I do my stuff and blah, 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 blah. And a crowd comes around. We take our hat off, after an hour or two, and we pass our hat around to collect money. And is this a PG or G show?
You can do it. You can say whatever you want. You're good.
I got to keep it real. We pass the hat around and we collect like $230 or something. And I pay my sister for the gas and dinner and all that stuff. And Myron and I split like $82, $41 each. So I give him $41. I have $41 and he counts the money. And then like he recounts the money and then he runs over to me, bear hug, and he's like, yes, we're fucking rich. And I was like, we had $41. But the lesson, that was like a big lesson for me. If I have to look back up, because, I realized at an early age that if you get over those fears of like, I'm not good enough, I don't have what it takes, and you actually keep going and get rewarded for it, that's like an amazing, and I got really addicted to the feeling on the other side of that wall of fear. So that was a big wall of fear. I knew, I could either turn around and go home, or I could figure out how to go through the wall or around the wall, which I did, and it felt good. So most of my successes, I've had those same kind of doubts or butterflies, and I've, more times than not been rewarded.
It's amazing. So that was like a pivotal moment for you where you kind of saw a reward, and that kind of progressed you to kind of keep on doing that same type of tenacity, relentlessness, chutzpah-like.
Well, here's the thing.
Action.
I grew up in an era where in today's world, disappointment and has been like stripped from kids. Like everybody gets a participation trophy, everybody makes and like disappointment is a real part of life. And I don't even call it like chutzpah. It's just like my parents didn't, it's natural now. And I'm the same way. I have 4 kids. I try not to I don't want to be disappointed. I don't want to be hurt. But like when I was growing up, if there was a baseball getting thrown at me and like my dad was sitting next to me and my mitt was down, it was going to hit me in the face. He let it hit me in the face. And so I won't even call it, it's just like it's the way that I kind of grew up. And I think it was a gift from my parents. They didn't really give me everything. They gave me a lot, but they let me figure a lot of stuff out by myself.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. I think you're totally right. I have 2 kids, same thing. And in these days, it's very much, it's kind of creating soft kids in a way, right? Because parents are so afraid of the kid failing that I'm with my kids also, with their soccer teams. And me and you are I think, have a lot of similarities. That's why I've been so fascinated by you, because when I was growing up as well, my parents I failed all the time. But that creates character, that creates resilience, right? And that's the only way to create resilience.
I also learned, like, I don't like to fail.
No.
Some people, like, it's okay. They tried. It's the effort. Like my brother said to me the other day, I was talking to my brother and he was asking me how the summer was going. And I said, this was actually last summer, but it got reminded of it a minute ago. But he said, he asked me how my son was doing in swim. He's on the swim team. I'm like, well, he's a really good swimmer, but like, he's really not that, into it. He doesn't try that hard. I wish he tried harder. And my brother's like, well, as long as he's happy, and I'm like, actually not, like my son would be happy playing Fortnite and eating Haagen-Dazs every day on the couch. So it's not like, as long as he's happy, it's about like getting him to understand his potential and try to get motivated to tap into that potential. And, my parents they praised my effort. Like everything was about effort in my house. It wasn't like they encouraged me to try. It wasn't about failure. It was about effort, trying, and it was never like, oh, that was a great game. You guys won and you scored so many points. It was always like, I loved watching how hard you tried. It was so great to see you guys play together, all working together so hard. And, like that tone and that is a lot different than what I think is happening right now. So, look, I'm not a parenting expert. I'm a work in progress with my kids, but that's something that stuck with me from my childhood.
So how do you motivate you? Because you're right. All these kids now, it's all about the iPad, right? It's about video games. Is your whole approach lead by example? Like if they monkey see, monkey do, if I do it, they're going to eventually want to kind of be the same way. What do you do to kind of get them off of that? I know you're no parenting expert, but still, like, how are you doing it? If he doesn't want to play or doesn't want to swim, what are you doing to make him?
I think it's a series of things. For starters, it is definitely trying to lead by example. I include my kids in conversations about, big races that I have or projects that I'm doing or the struggles I'm going through to how I'm pushing through them. They see me outside every day. They see my pace. They see my friends. They get a sense of all that stuff by watching me. So that's really important. And I'm aware that they're watching. But the second thing is, like, I really encourage them to try things. They don't have to love it. And if they try it and sign up for it, they have to stick it through till the end. They don't have to sign up again next year, but if they commit to it, they have to do it. And I don't run over to them when they fall. I don't run over to them like, or even like, and I'm not insensitive to that. Or if they fail, I listen, we talk about it, but like, I have 4 kids. With my first kid, I did. With our first child, it was like, oh my God, you skinned your knee. I got to go, blah, blah. Oh my God, let's call the doctor, And I'm like, now it's like, and I'm really hands off on it. And then the other thing is, kids are very scheduled today, overscheduled. Baseball and this and after school and they have to play date and Like when I was growing up, my mother would take me to a meeting. She was on the board of ed in our district, school district. And I'd sit for 3 hours with a box of like crayons or toys, or I'd have to figure it out at home if she had stuff to do. It was like, I had to figure it out. So she put me in a position where I didn't grow, it was like I grew up and I had no access to anything but she put me in a position where I had to figure it out.
Right, exactly.
She didn't solve my problems by saying, oh, you're bored? Let's watch 11 hours of Netflix.
Yes.
Unlimited. And when you're done, I'll make you popcorn. So I really try to have my kids do that. And it's not easy. I'm not great at it. And they watch plenty of Netflix too. But in general, that's important.
You know what I found really interesting about you as well? I saw a video that you did, which I think, for people who are usually who's had as much success as you have, it's all about structure and routine, right? They're very much about their habits, right? And their hustle, but a lot about like being very on point. You said a whole thing about you think that that's when you get stuck in a routine, it's kind of like being in a rut. And I really thought that was it was just very unique by what I was just saying. And that you don't get better at anything if you keep on doing that. So first of all, so does that mean someone like you don't have a routine, you don't have particular habits that you stick to on a day-to-day basis?
No. So as you get older, it's really hard to create newness. So I'm turning 52 because we live in routine and schedule and we play defense. Our calendars, our whole life is defense. Our calendars fill up with meetings, appointments, scheduled weddings, anniversaries, charity events, other people want advice. And like you're playing defense. And, I completely flip that model upside down. I try to play as much offense in my life as I can and prioritize as much of what I love to do with the people that I love to do them with. So, you have to work at that. If you don't work on creating newness and live in routine, you're in like it's like you're fast track. You're going to be 70 before you snap your fingers. And you won't have a lot of experiences. And I have habits. I have routines. I try to add as many winning habits and routines to my life as possible, but I don't live in routine. I don't live in a scheduled, like I just bought an RV.
I saw that.
Like on a whim online. And like 4 days later, I was driving my kids, now that's an extreme example, but, I try not to do it. And let me tell you something, Jen, I actually have a system that I've put in place. It's called the Big Ass Calendar. I actually have a program.
I saw that. It's amazing.
I teach this whole thing. It's called the Big Ass Calendar Club, where you actually lay out your year and in advance, 12 months in advance. But I actually map out one big life changing thing that I do every year and 5 little mini adventures, things that I wouldn't have normally done, on a Saturday. And instead of watching the Alabama football game, I might take my kids fishing or go for a hike or whatever. So at the end of the next 30 years, let's just say I stuck to that routine, which is still introducing new things, but it's a routine. From 40 to 70, I would have 30 like huge things that I've done, and I'd have 150 adventures that I wouldn't have had by the time I'm 70. So that's what I mean. Like you have to plan stuff like that.
Right.
Otherwise, you're going to be 70. The average American gains 2.5 pounds a year from 30 to 35 to 65. Now you're 50, 60 pounds overweight. You can't do the shit you wanted to do, and you're 70. I just climbed the top of Mount Washington last winter in the fucking snow. I didn't see any 70-year-olds on top of the mountain. Like our window is so short to do the stuff we want to do. If you're in routine and you don't plan that stuff, it's going to be too late.
Right. I saw that. Yeah, you did that with a bunch of friends. You kind of like take a gaggle of people and you kind of go climb that mountain.
Yes. I like to do things with my friends.
I see that. I mean, so you have to have a very particular kind of friend, or like you just coerce people. Like Sarah, I don't feel like Sarah doesn't seem like you guys are similar in that way. So you have to coerce her probably, like, hey, we have an RV. We're going to be doing that for the summer. Or she didn't go with you she didn't climb Mount Washington with you, did she?
I get to buy she'll go on a trip. I'll go to the opera.
Yeah.
No, she loves it. She loves, every year she does this challenge with Richard Branson that he has Strive. Yeah. She does something. She has the same kind of philosophy. She just does it in her own way.
So, okay, so get back to that. So then basically you say that you structure, so your routine is basically a little bit different, but still a routine. You just plan in advance. So you're basically embedding new challenges, new things yearly. So you kind of experience as much as you can in your lifetime, which is kind of about build your own life resume. Is that the other?
Yeah, I like to, I really believed in that, in not traditional resumes, but building a life resume. And again, just to be clear, I have routines and habits, and, and I try to make them good routines and try to introduce new winning habits all the time. In fact, almost every month or two, I try to pick one thing that I introduce into my life that's new. For example, I don't drink enough water. So this month, I'm going to start drinking 100 ounces every day. That would be a new routine that I'm going to try to do forever, and then in 2 months, I might add another routine, like I'm never going to be late to another meeting. So I'm always kind of taking inventory.
I'm going to write that down, and I'm going to hold you to that one.
That's cool. I said in another 2 months, 60 days.
All right.
But yeah, I think, again, I definitely live in a framework. I have a structure and you can call it a routine that I follow, but I'm always trying to add winning habits, and I'm always adding things into my routine, to create newness. When I say, so I just want to be clear, so no one's talking two different things. When you just do a routine, like I'm going to take 2 weeks off, and every year I'm going to go to the beach in Miami for those 2 weeks, and and I'm going to work till 8:00, and that's great. I'm going to go to the gym every day. Amazing. That's most people. All I'm saying is, instead of going to Miami, maybe you want to go and learn something, or instead of, maybe on Wednesdays you say, you know what, I'm going to carve out an hour. I'm going to take a cooking class, or I'm going to go learn. You have to create some newness. Gandhi said it best: learn like you're going to live forever, live like you're going to die tomorrow. So, and I really try to follow that.
So give me some of your daily habits that you kind of have, and then we could talk about the ones you've kind of brought in, like your water one, for example. What do you do?
Yeah, so they're no longer habits, because I've been doing
lifestyle choices.
They're just lifestyle.
Lifestyle.
Let me be clear about this. They're not discipline. Discipline to me, like, of course you want to be disciplined, but it also connotates deprivation. Like, people think if you have to be disciplined around not eating chocolate, that like, or losing weight, or I don't know, what's a good example? Whatever, they relate that to like some sort of deprivation. Deprivation never works in the long term. It just doesn't. If you feel like after a while, you're like, I'm just killing myself, give me the damn chocolate cake.
Right.
But if it's a lifestyle decision, and it's like, it's unwavering, it's not like a chore. I just went for a run. I didn't really want to go for a run, but that's what I do every day. It's unwavering. I exercise. It's part of my lifestyle, who I want to be. I mean, so it's like, there was no discussion in my head, even though I really didn't want to do it. It was never like, well, take today off, came into my head, ever, never. Right. So some of the things and this might sound extreme, but it's not when it's part of your lifestyle. On the diet side, I only eat fruit until 12:00 noon every day for 30 years.
What kind of fruit do you eat? Can it be any kind of fruit?
Any fresh fruit. But I say my prayers before I go to bed and when I wake up. That is a daily routine. An example of something that, I didn't do maybe 20 years ago, but I do it now. And that's, drinking more water. That's a routine. Planning out my day the night before. People talk about morning habits and morning routines. Morning routines are important, but I don't think they're as important as evening routines, because you really need to start your day the night before when you map out what your day looks like. I'm just following the script today. Like, I planned my day last night. So, I don't think at this age I can just wake up and wing it. The competition's too good. I can't wake up and be like, what should I do today? Like, at work, and what am I going to do with my kids? Like, I need to have it out. Otherwise, the day will probably get away from me. So, right. So I believe that's a routine. Every night I lay out what my day looks like the night before.
So what about all this endurance stuff? Have you always just been very into exercise, or when did it kind of start to become such a big part of your lifestyle? I mean, we're not talking about, you're not just going for a daily jog down, like you said, down the street. You're climbing Mount Washington. You're doing all sorts of I saw you with Wim Hof doing that whole thing with him back a few months, 5-6 months ago. You're you do a lot of hard things. When did that whole thing start?
Well, I grew up, I was suburban athletic,
okay, yes.
Not like better than the kids in the city, or
Yeah.
I hold my own in the suburbs, kind of athletic.
Yeah.
But I wasn't a runner. In fact, when I graduated college, when I was in college, a friend of mine told me he was running the New York Marathon. He was like a junior in college. I was like, what? Sounded impossible. Like, you're running the New York Marathon? So like when I graduated, I was like, let me see, like, how far can I run? I could run like 2 miles. And I actually worked my way up to 2 miles. And I said to myself, well, if I can get to like 2 miles in 18 minutes or under, I'm a runner, And I ran the New York Marathon. A couple years later, I said, I'll never do this again. I decided to do it next year just because. And then I was like, I'm going to do this every year until I'm 50. And a couple of years later, I did a 24-hour event, running race with 5 friends. We were a relay team. You run a mile, Jen. I run a mile. My friend runs a mile. And then you keep going until, whoever has the most miles as a team wins. And there were a handful of people that were doing the race solo. They didn't have a team. And I was floored that someone could run 100 miles.
Yeah.
In 24 hours. And what even floored me even more was the fact that they didn't look like an Olympic athletes at all. In fact, most of them weren't even physically impressive. And I said, you know what, if they can do it, they're doing that because they just don't stop. It's just a test of like will, pain, threshold, and, stubbornness, patience, like all the things that weren't like about like, like I'm never going to be I can't even dunk a basketball. That'll never change.
Right.
This, if I could change the way I could handle pain, or I could, my willpower, I got pretty good willpower, and handle obstacles and gut it out, could I do it? And like the playing field is completely level. So I took a 2-mile goal. That was my goal. And ran 100 miles nonstop. And nothing physically changed from the 2-mile mark to the 100-mile mark. My legs are the same lungs God gave me. I'm not very strong, but I've completely changed my approach mentally on how to attack this. And I did it twice. So that was my journey.
Did you do that before Dave Goggins lived with you for the book? Before that whole thing, you were already an endurance athlete, right?
I ran 100 miles before I ever met him face to face.
So then, why did you think to yourself, okay, I'm going to have this guy, how did that whole thing even happen? Where he even moved in with you, Dave Goggins. I mean, he's like a crazy badass, right? How did that whole thing happen?
Well, nobody knew. I mean, very few people knew who this was. This was like 15 years ago.
Right. Nobody knew who he was.
Nobody knew. I didn't know who he was. There was no internet. There was no social media. I just saw him at a race. He looked like he was, impressive, obviously. And I reached out to him and I met him. I liked him. I thought I could learn a lot from him and what makes him tick, and asked him to come live with me. And he did. And, he lived on and off, with me and Sarah. He was in our life for several years, not just 30 days. And then, obviously I wrote a book about our journey about 5 or 7 years after he even stayed with me. So,
oh my gosh, it was that long after?
Yeah. So it was like, I didn't invite him over to write a book. I invited him over because I liked him, and, we were friends. And, yeah.
And then, so what were the top 3 things that he made you do that was like the most like awful? Like physically, emotionally, mentally? Because I know you said you slept in a chair, that kind of like stuff like that. Give me few other ones. Well,
it was just never ending. I mean, it was just every day. And I asked for that.
Yeah.
Challenge after challenge, we ran 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. That was hard just because it was freezing. Where we did it in the mountains in the middle of the winter in the snow. We jumped in a frozen lake. We cracked the ice and jumped in the lake. We stayed in a sauna until I basically passed out. We ran, I did 1,000 push-ups in a day. When he first came to my house, I was doing like 20, so all these different things came into play.
It's unbelievable. And like, so I can't believe you wrote the book that much later. I didn't realize it was so much after the fact. And then with your other book, when you went to live with monks, like what kind of possessed you to live with monks again? Like why you keep on putting yourself in these like very difficult and, very hard situations.
Like I said, I'm a big believer in building your life resume. I want to milk life as much as I can because I realize in 20, 30 years, 30 something years, I'll be in my 70s. So like my window to do stuff, it's like it's shrinking so fast. And I'm aware of that, very. So, on my quest to just do things that are interesting and learning and fun, I thought like I have invested so much in the physical side of my life. Like I have trainers, I've run races, I got equipment, but I've really not invested anything in the spiritual side of my life. And part of being an entrepreneur is figuring out how to get from point A to point B the fastest. And I was like, well, who are the spiritual masters? And I was like, monks. So let me go live with the monks. I don't learn well, with no disrespect, just my learning style from podcasts or reading books. I don't retain stuff well. I learn by throwing myself in the fire. Like I want to learn, like I didn't read a book. I wanted to learn how to free dive. I had an instructor come. I went from holding my breath for 32 seconds. By the way, there's no correlation between being an endurance athlete and how long you can hold your breath underwater. So I thought I'd be able to hold my breath for like 2 minutes, 3 minutes underwater. They held my head under the water. I flipped out, 31 seconds. I tapped out and I'm up. 2 sessions later, I'm holding my breath for 3 minutes. So,
oh my gosh.
Through the experts, through the monks of the world, the Wim Hofs of the world, the Navy SEALs of the world, you can really accelerate the greatest entrepreneurs of the world. You want to read a book about entrepreneurship, or do you want to go work under Warren Buffett's tutelage, or under Bezos, or any of these guys that have Elon Musk, whoever? You're going to learn a lot faster than reading 50 pages and taking notes.
Absolutely.
The greatest gift that I got from Marquis Jet. Marquis Jet was a company I started when I was 29 years old. We had no aviation. It was a private jet company. We had no aviation experience. We had no airplanes. 4 years before it, I was a kiddie pool attendant. And we grew that company into a $5 billion company. We sold it to Buffett's NetJets. And the greatest gift from the company was not the wire that they sent when we sold the company or the EBITDA numbers. Those were all great. The greatest gift was for me at 30 years old, we flew 4,000 of the who's who of entrepreneurship, pop culture, athletes, entertainers. And I was obsessed with their lifestyle, and any opportunity that I had as a young kid to ask them, how do you guys live? What are your routines? What time do you get up? How do you live rich? What do you do with your money? What do you do with your time? How do you vacation? Do you have a chef? How do you learn? Who are your mentors? I would ask them. And I got like all of these different pieces of information. Living with the monks, having a SEAL come live with me. These are all part of the same journey from when I was 30 years old. I got more chips in front of me that I can throw at it.
Mm-hmm.
But even when I was 20 and I slept on 18 different couches, friends that put me up when I was trying to make it in the music business, bouncing from friend to friend in New York, didn't have an apartment at the time and friends were putting me up. But even then, when I had, not a lot, I was always experiencing. I would take the train to Jones Beach in the winter and do a cold plunge. I would go to a seminar. If there was something in New York, if there was a free concert or speech or something going on, or, I would go, I would volunteer, whatever. I would go. I remember going to Jack Walsh had a seminar. I'd never been to a speech. I never heard a public speaker in my life. And somehow I got there and I didn't pay to go. And I just remember like, whoa, man. like this guy's just dumping 50 years of best practices, and I'm getting, and you know, I was doing those things, and now I'm just doing them on a bigger level.
Right. I mean, the Marquis Jet story, wasn't it? I saw something again. Can you talk about the story, how weren't you like doing something where you were taking people who are really wealthy and you're giving them really amazing experiences? And so somebody you were working on, someone wanted like Christina Aguilera to come to the party, right? Can you talk about that? Tell the story. It's a great story.
We had a company called eSuperstars, and we would get anything that anybody wanted to do. We would make happen. So if someone wanted to play golf with Michael Jordan, we would figure out a way to make it happen. You want to go backstage to the Rolling Stones concert? We're going to figure it out. We had people like we're ball boys or bat boys at the World Series, like crazy stuff, man. And someone called me up and said, hey, I have a friend of mine. His daughter's having a Sweet 16. She's a huge Christina Aguilera fan. I was friends with her manager at the time. I don't remember his name now. Anyway, somehow we hooked it up where she was able to go. They got great seats with her friends. And somehow they got her on stage like background singer with the mic off kind of thing. Like she was able to like participate on one of the things. And it was like the talk of the town. And the next day the guy called me up. He's like, look, I don't know who you are or what in the world you do, but if you ever need any help with anything, you know, let me know. His name was Jim Jacobs. He was the president or CEO of this company, NetJets. They did private jet travel. And I said, great. It was like, whatever. A year later, we start this company called Marquis Jet. We need 650 airplanes. Jim, it's Jesse. I don't know if you remember me, you know, with the Christina Aguilera. I'd love to talk to you about your airplanes, man. And they were our partner.
That's amazing. I mean, it's great how you leverage. So it's basically you're really a master at leveraging relationships and networking. I mean, that's kind of how you.
I'm a master at putting myself in a position where I can attract luck, where anyone can do it. Like I am a good. I don't leverage things because I never really ask anybody for anything. But I always, when I was between the ages of 20 to 50. I never said no. If you want to Nick tickets, when I wrote the Nick song, Go New York Go, I was 22 years old and I had no money. And the song became the #1 most requested song on New York radio. So when the Knicks go to the playoffs, my song is banging all over the city. And all my friends are like, well, Jesse's going to be able to get me tickets. And anybody who called me up for tickets pretty much, by the way, they didn't give me tickets. The Knicks paid me $4,000 to buy the song. I sold it. It cost me $4,800 to do the song. So I lost $800. And everybody thinks they gave me 300 level tickets. That was our deal. But
my God.
I never said no. I put my credit card out and I got tickets. I wanted to be known as somebody that could like get anything done, you know, but I never did it and call people back. Hey man, I got you Nick tickets. Can you get me US Open tickets or can you get me? I never did that.
Right.
Never. You can ask anybody in my role. I never ever do that, but I've never said no either. So I wouldn't say I'm a leverager, but you know, and I love doing stuff like that. I wasn't doing it because I thought, oh, in 10 years I'm gonna need airplanes or I was like, I like doing it, you know, and I built a crazy network, off the charts network of friends and, you know, connections. And I invested a lot, Jen, in keeping those relationships. When I was 22 years old, I wrote 10 letters a day because there was no email, there was no internet, and there was no social media. So the only way I could like leverage relationships or build my network was to either show up somewhere, meet people, or I would write letters. So for a 20-cent stamp, I sent 10 a day, 3,000 handwritten letters to anyone that impressed me, influenced me, moved me, touched me, helped me. I was inspired by, and that was my and that was my marketing plan. And you know, even to this day, people still talk about, I still write them, by the way, not as many. But that's what I've always done it.
Yeah, I know that it's a nice added touch, right? Because people are too lazy usually to do that extra step. So when when people do it, it stands out, right? Can you give people some advice? I think the networking is a really important piece to a lot of this. How now everything is very saturated, right? Like even if you're on social media and you're very popular in social media, it's very hard to penetrate through that wall because people get so many DMs. There's so many, it's very difficult. Can you give people how can people get in the door? Like what are some easy, or I shouldn't say easy, some smart strategies that how people can network now, or kind of take their, network now?
So I think the first thing is consistency. So if you send 3 texts or DMs a day for the whole year, you'll send 1,000. 365 days, 3. If you send 10, you'll send 3,000. So if, that's a whole lot. Now, not everyone's going to respond to you, but some people will.
Right.
So a lot of people get discouraged after 40, 50, but go send 3,000. So, I call it the 3-minute miracle. It takes me 45 seconds to send a text to someone or a DM. So 3 minutes, I'm sending 3 a day. That's 1,000 a year. So that I do that. The other thing is there's an art form to how you wordsmith emails and DMs. If it's an important email or an important DM or important text, I could spend up to 45 minutes on an hour, maybe even, because when you get interviewed, Jen, they ask you questions, you're on the spot. You got to answer right then. When you write an email or a text, you can pick the words, you can look up words, you can sit on it, you can reflect, you can get people's opinion. You're in control. So if I'm going to write an email that I want to get a reaction, I put myself in the seat of the recipient. And I say, if I got this, would I respond? And what would make me respond? Because most people only care about what's in it for them.
Yeah.
So you send me a DM and says, hey, I don't want money. You don't need to invest. I just want to pick your brain for 15 minutes. Well, what the fuck is in it for me?
Right.
Now, a couple of times I'll do that, and I'm glad to help. And I do open my doors, and I do a lot of, big seminars that are for free, all that. But I can't spend 15 minutes with somebody. I have 4 kids.
Right. Right.
So you got to think about what would make the person react. Ego, not a win-win, a no-lose. And a no-lose is an I'll turn for you for free. That's not like a no-lose. That's like more work for me. I got to vet you. And
right.
But I will really wordsmith it. The first thing I do is I focus on the subject line. Is it catchy? Is it funny? Will it draw them in? Will it make it open it? Will it stand out? Does it look like spam? And then I'll say, how do I make this email as short as possible? Ask for whatever it is I'm asking for. Make it easy for them to say yes, like in one click or one response, not like call my assistant or what's a good day for me to call you back, none of that. And I'll sit on it. And I'll read it again in the morning, having a chance to let it just digest, and then I'll hit send. So I do that now. Like if I'm writing an email, and I would say almost once a day, I will, and if you want to ask me what I'm a master at, it's not leveraging stuff, it's emails and meetings. Jen, I can go into a meeting. There's probably going to be, I don't know, there's 200, 300 million Americans. There's probably, I don't know, man, like when there's coronavirus, maybe like 10 million meetings a day or something. I think like 50 million meetings a day. I don't know.
Right. A lot of meetings.
I don't lose in meetings because I can control, I can, not all the time, almost. Mm-hmm. I walk into a meeting and I say, I don't know, let me think about this. Hey guys, I walk in. First of all, I'm not sitting when they meet me in the lobby. I'm not low energy. I'm standing because I'm excited and I don't want to get up. I got to adjust my suit or my thing, or what do I look like? I'm standing and ready to go. I go in the meeting and I say, hey, Jen, oh my God, I had a crazy night last night. Before we even start, my parents are at my house, and my dad's 90. So I had to help him get his pajamas on and get him ready for bed. And, it was just, and then he needed extra blankets, and I'm just glad to be here because I had a crazy night last night. Now that took me 20 seconds. It has nothing to do with the pencil I want to sell you or the
right.
It took 20 seconds. But in those 20 seconds, I've already told you, without you even knowing, I'm loyal. I'm a family guy. My priorities are right. Taking care of my parents, no matter what, even though it was a long day, I'm going to still, my priorities come first. Like, without even me telling you anything about me, you now know everything about me. You didn't even ask. I won the meeting.
That's a good one.
I don't have to establish credibility. I already told you without you knowing what you want. And I'm not being sneaky.
No, I know.
No, I'm not like bait and switching you. Oh, Jen, I see you got a running watch on. Are you, I'm a runner too. This is a crazy thing. I'm running this race in 3 weeks called it's the Murder Mile in Tennessee, which I am. And, I'm exhausted today because I've already told you so much about me, and we didn't even start.
No, it's amazing. Right. So I think you're basically like, you're also you're putting them at ease, right? Because right away you're very friendly, and you're kind of like taking the guard down by kind of
always. Because listen,
yeah.
I got a 980 on my SAT. How am I going to go into, when I'm a 28-year-old kid trying to tell somebody that I want to start a private jet company and I have no airplanes? The first thing I got to do is I'm the business plan. The only thing they can bet on is me.
Right.
Well, I know that going in. I got to sell them on me, my enthusiasm to the project, making them feel like, man, this guy's going to figure it out. I don't care if he has any airplanes. You talked about no foods. I said, right. I don't invest in things anymore outside of my own projects. But when I invested in that company, I had a team of advisors that would vet investments for me.
Right.
So I sent this over to them, and the guy sent it back, and he said, absolutely not. This is a pass. And I said, why? He said, the CEO, the founder, has no experience in the food industry. The price is too much. Mm-hmm. They have no idea. They've never done this before. And this whole list of things, which, by the way, sounded a lot like me. And I said, Jim, have you ever met the CEO, the founder? He said, no. I said, okay, wire the money. Because I looked at the guy and I was like, this guy is never going to say no. He'll, like, no matter what, he's going to figure this out. I don't care if he has no experience. That would have been great. Wire the money, man. Because in that one meeting, his passion, his enthusiasm, his personality, and all that stuff. And so that's what I'm talking about.
And it reminded you of you. It reminded you of you, how you were when you were that person. When you were like buying. I remember another thing, like we were at a TED Talk conference. You couldn't get in. You wanted to talk to those people. You basically went to like Starbucks and like bought all the donuts, and you know what I mean. Like you kind of always like showed perseverance and tenacity, and you were a nobody. So you see that in someone else, and that basically, I think, resonates with you. And that's probably why you took a chance on it.
Yeah, I never thought of myself as a nobody.
No, I don't mean it like that,
No, I want to just explain this for people that are listening. I always walked into a room, and even though I didn't belong in some of the rooms from a experience, maybe even intelligence perspective, I knew that I had something that I could offer that nobody in there had. And I didn't know what it is. I still don't know what it is. But I always had, like I used to walk into my office when I was sleeping on my friend's couch and I had a partner and we would go in, I meet him at our office. It was his office. And I'd be like, man, we're millionaires. They just haven't paid us yet. So because a lot of people think where they are today, that they're going to be stuck in that same, balance sheet or same net worth or same bad relationship or whatever forever. I never felt that way. I always knew something. I know, like, I'm not going to be a kiddie pool attendant my whole life. I'm going to figure this shit out. And I'm not in a rush because I know I'm not going to go through my time on earth. There's too much. I want it too badly. So I never thought of myself during any of those years, even when I got dropped from the record label, 11 publishers passed on Living with the Seal before a small imprint took it. It became a #1 bestseller. I got rejected from every record company until finally someone signed me. I didn't get into the top 5 schools I wanted to get into in high school. I never thought during those moments, it's not going to work out for me. I was disappointed, of course, but I never felt like it's over. I was like, man, I'm going to show these fuckers, man.
That's amazing. I love that you obviously had desire and passion, but confidence. Now, do you feel like confidence can be, if someone doesn't have that confidence, like you obviously had it was innate in you. How does somebody, in your opinion, of course, build that confidence? Kind of like get to that place where they're not, the self-doubt isn't taking them over.
It's not confidence. I want everybody to understand this. It's a standard. It's what is your standard? So let me give you an example. I give speeches. I'm a public speaker and I get booked. And I don't want to be a public speaker. I want to be the best public speaker. I want to leave the conference as the highest rated speaker they've ever had. That's not confidence. I'm not confident. That's a standard. I don't want to write a book. I want to write the best book I can possibly write ever. That it's not confidence. It's a standard. I'm a dad. I don't want to be a good dad. I want to be the best dad I can be to my 4 kids, using every ounce possible of my soul to make that happen. That's not confidence. That's a standard. I'm not a confident guy. I have mega high standards that I want to hit.
And I like that. So how did you become, because you are a really good speaker. I mean, I think it's captivating. How did you craft that? Did you hire someone to become that, to help you become that really good speaker? Or what was because your career obviously evolved, right? You went from a rapper to to the jet company to this things, there's so many different, you're like a chameleon. You keep on, as you grow, you keep on evolving. Who helped you become such a good speaker right now?
Well, I started out when my book came out, I got asked to speak to 40 people for free. And I said, absolutely.
Which book? The Seal book or the Monk book?
With the Seal. I'm like,
okay.
I don't have to pay you guys to come. I can just actually come and speak. Like, all right. I show up and the guy's like, there's no microphone. They're all sitting around. No one knows who I am, eating their donuts. Like, who's this guy? And the guy said, speak slowly and loudly. You have 40 minutes. I said, okay. And I spoke. And when I got done, he came over to me. He's like, that was unbelievable. He's like, that people really liked it. I was like, oh my God, thank you. And one person in the room called me up and said, can I book you for a speech? What's your fee? And I said, what's your budget? $2,500. And I said, that's exactly my fee. There. And then two people from there booked me, and reps after reps after reps. And a year later, I'm on stage in Miami in front of 35,000 people at the Marlins Stadium, and rated very high, knock on wood. And then Tony Robbins. It just evolved, and I don't know. I love it. I think that's why. I absolutely love it.
Well, you also seem to go to the best for everything. When you wanted to, was it like you were trying to get your memory better? You hired some memory guy to come help you guys. when you're every time you seek out something that you want to get better at or take it to the next level, you get somebody in that world, like the monks, Dave Goggins, whatever it is. So who helped you? Who was your person for this, this phase or that? No one? You just did it yourself?
It's my story I'm telling. And it's these things are so baked in me. When I started out, I thought, I like to incorporate humor. I took a public speaking class in college. And I remember the teacher told me 4 things. I got to remember the 4 things. She said, open up with an icebreaker, preferably humor. It doesn't have to have anything to do with what you're talking about, but I like to have an icebreaker when I open up a story or something, like when I walk into an office, the same process, right?
Right.
That's the first thing. The second thing is tell people what it is that you're going to be talking about. People like to know where they're going. They want to know what they're going to follow along. 3 is deliver on that promise. And 4 is leave them with actionable takeaways. And if you can entertain people and accomplish those 4 things, you're going to have a good speech. These are my life stories, my life lessons, the good, the bad. And because I've had so many different experiences in multiple businesses in music and Zico coconut water and private aviation and the Atlanta Hawks and writing books and living with, going to Wim Hof's house and living with monks. I have a lot of things that I can share. The more you experience, the more you have to offer. And I'm rich in experiences. So then just by definition, I have rich in offerings. So, and it was just trial and error. Like anything else, started really small. Try to get better, reps, get better, get more comfortable, see what works, see what doesn't work, craft it. And I'm not the best. I just said, and I'm not claiming to be the best. I'm just saying that's my standard of what I'm shooting for is to be that.
Well, you're great at it. I got to tell you, you're great at it. Can you give us some, before I even say that, you're doing now another thing, right? You're doing the radio, like the 24/7 content, right?
Yeah.
When is that? So it's all content, right? It's podcasts, it's music, what else is it? It's it's everything. It's like a smorgasbord of content, right?
Yeah, it's a 24-hour live stream called BYLR Radio, Build Your Life Resume Radio. That's a combination of hit music, podcasts, original shows that we put together, and interviews. And it's amazing.
When is it launched, though?
We're launching in July, and towards not an official date. Apple's a little backed up on their apps right now because of the coronavirus and everything. But yeah. I'm hoping like mid-July.
Wow. Okay. And then can you give us a few
hustle up there?
Let's do it. Can we do it?
Yeah, we can talk about it for sure.
I love it because I gotta say, like a lot of before, people would always say to me, "You would love this guy." Like Dovette told me, like you would love him. He's like a male version of you, blah, 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 forever. Okay, so then when I started like following you and like knowing about you, everything you said, even in this podcast, whatever, it's like it hits home. I mean, and you do it with such passion and it's amazing. It's like such a chutzpah, and it's just amazing. I really appreciate who you are. I really do.
Thank you.
No, you're welcome. And that's like a side note, but a couple of actionable items for people to build their own resume, because a lot of people don't have access, let's say, to go to Wim Hof's or to do this or, to really kind of get to that level. How do people start building their own life resume in a more of a modest way?
Yeah, well, I think the number one thing people can do is put one big thing on their calendar in the next 12 months that you normally wouldn't have done. So like 1 year defining thing. And, if I were to ask the listeners or you, Jen, what'd you do in 2012 that was big? You'd be like, what'd you do 8 days ago? You'd be like, I have no idea, because like we must just live in that routine you talked about. So you want to have one thing that's like, whoa, in 2012, I ran 100. Like you want to be able to go and point to it kind of right away. Last year I did a 100-mile race. 2 years before that I did 29 or 20. Like I can go back pretty much and do it. Last year I took my son to Mount Washington, which is a in Maine. Oh my God, where's New Hampshire?
New Hampshire.
And we're camping out in the snow. It's like -5 degrees out. We have a -20-degree sleeping bag. We're bundled up. There's 7 billion people in the world, and it's just like me and my son and his friend and my friend and his daughter. And it was like incredible. And it cost I think it cost $13 to park there at Mount Washington. You know, like
okay.
No, I'm just saying, like, it didn't cost $25.
It cost nothing. Exactly. It was a cheap trip, is what you're saying.
Bag, a pair of shoes. You know, we hiked up, we parked, we drove, and then we drove. And like, so, you know, of course it's easier if you have means and resources, but there's plenty of things you can do. You can jump in a cold ocean. You can go camping. You can go fishing on the Hudson River. There's a lot. So I just encourage you, anyone listening, to do one big thing a year.
And then incorporating the other habits into what you were saying, the water. How's it going for you, by the way? Are you drinking the 100 ounces of water?
Yeah, I'm not monitoring it but I'm drinking a lot more than I was.
A lot more. And then you just kind of, I like the other thing that you said earlier, which is like you kind of embed new winning habits to your routine that you're already doing.
Yeah.
And that doesn't have to cost anything, right? Is there?
Right. I actually, I wish I had one here. I have a calendar. I teach this in a program called the Big Ass Calendar Club, but I have a calendar that's like custom made. I spent a lot of time putting it together that has these trackers on it. So it has like every month a line for your new daily habit. It has what's your big thing. It has so I have a system that I use. Like I said, I don't just wake up and wing it. I'm very aware of it. And it might sound goofy or hokey or whatever, but it works, man. I have big years every year, big.
And so if people want to get involved in this big ass calendar, is it just on your website?
On my website, jesseitzler.com, or on Instagram at Jesse Itzler, right. In my link, in my bio.
Okay. And all right. So if people are interested, they should go check it out. I want to try it myself. Well, I think that's basically, I kind of like took up enough of your time. It's been about an hour. I don't know how long you kind of like, carved out for me. So I appreciate this, but I have one other thing. When you come to LA next, would you do this live, like how it normally should, and we can like walk on treadmills? If you keep that treadmill at a real low incline and a moderate pace, I'll consider it. What are you talking about? You could run 100 miles. What are you talking about? Oh, I know. Well, this was great. I'm glad we got to do this. This was great. I'm really happy. It was great talking to you. And how do people find you if they want to be inspired by all your stories of life and then some? At Jesse Itzler on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, and jesseitzler.com. It's pretty simple. It's pretty simple. Your energy is infectious. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I appreciate it. My pleasure. Thank you so much. Bye. Habits and hustle, time to get it rolling. Stay up on the grind, don't stop, keep it going. Habits and hustle, from nothing into something. All out, hosted by Jennifer Cohen. Visionaries, tune in, you can get to know them. Be inspired, this is your moment. Excuses, we ain't having that. The Habits and Hustle podcast, powered by Habit